Hello and thanks for joining us here on CTV. It's the month of the woman and we are bringing you special programming that highlights the issues that affect young girls and women in our societies. And as usual, the whole week we've been bringing you specialists and experts on various issues, those who are doing the groundwork and those who are sharing with us their experiences. The International Women's Day agenda is on bringing about or bridging the gap between disparities so that there's no gender inequality, and we're highlighting different issues. If you've been with us throughout the whole week, yesterday we had an interesting discussion on inheritance, succession and property ownership, and today in the line with the same discussion we are talking about inequalities and issues that affect women in businesses. That means those who both own the businesses and those who are just working in the business. And to discuss this, I am joined by Joanita Nassuna from SEATINI, and we also have a business owner, Blessing Amanya, who owns a business, and they'll be sharing their experiences with us. Welcome, ladies.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for accepting our invitation to be on set.
Oh, very humbled.
Okay, so what we do as a tradition here is we first get to know our guests in person. Joanita, SEATINI is an organization that is doing a lot of great work in terms of research and policy to try and bridge the gap between especially government and what needs to be done on the ground. I'm curious to know, how did you pick that as a career?
Oh, thank you for having me, CTV. It's always good to talk about women. My name is Joanita Nassuna. I work with SEATINI Uganda as the Program Associate for Women and Economic Justice. Why did I pick particularly women? Like I said, I love women. And I am a woman. I'm a mother. I'm a mother of 7, but I'm also married. And previously, by the way, before I took up the career of addressing women issues, I was an accountant. But I did not like the whole, the way the society viewed a woman. I would move in public means and I would notice the way men intimidate women was way overboard, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But also, as a professional woman in profession, I had a number of challenges that I used to face before leaving home. I am a mother. Sometimes I'm leaving home with a sick child. I'm supposed to address, to take care of this situation before I leave home. That means that I get to work late, but also at work, I'm expected to be in time at the same time. But also there are also marital challenges. Today you wake up and you're having disputes at home, but at work, you're supposed to wear an okay face. So as a woman, I felt that this was a calling. This is something that people needed to understand, that the life of a woman is not the same as the life of a man, for example.
So for the time you've been doing that advocacy, okay, moving away from the conventional corporate world, how do you feel your journey is moving? Maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the epitome of, you know, I'm getting there, I've got there to achieving what I set out to do.
I would think that where I'm set out to do, I would think I'm at 6 right now. I'm above average. Yeah. I feel these issues now are being listened to, are being heard, and women are vocal, and now we have a space in governance, in amongst the policymakers. I feel they are very interested now to address the issues, but also we are at a certain level of appreciation for both the policymakers, for both us as women actors, but also the perpetuators, the men themselves, are interested in addressing these issues. So on a scale of 1 to 10, we are at 6.
Okay, that's very good. Blessing, I understand that you were in the corporate world before. You've worked with different companies before you eventually set out to become a woman in business, owning your own business. What sparked that journey for you? Or if you can also tell us a bit about that.
Okay, thank you, Martha. My name is Blessing Goodman Amanya, and the co-founder of NutriPal. So before I talk about NutriPal, I'm supposed to talk about how NutriPal came into existence. Yes. So right from childhood, I grew up when my parents were well off, yes, and our parents would tell us, Christmas time, please take food to your neighbors, go to the community. Christmas, what have they eaten, you know? And I would I would be puzzled after giving them food. I'm thinking, this is just one day.
Yeah.
Yeah? It's one day, and tomorrow what?
Yeah.
So every time I would be there at school, you know, P7, senior 4. So senior 4, I tell my mom, but mom, you know, you've always baked cakes. I think I've loved the passion because I also did home economics while at Baranyanji Girls.
Yeah.
So I tell my mom that I think we need to look for a way of reaching out to these people. My mom is thinking, that's a good idea. But then how do you feed the whole world, you know?
Yeah.
Like we can't cook food and feed the whole village. So anyway, so I start, by then I was in school as in Baranyanji. I remember I started doing receipts in school so that I get some extra money because my parents would pay the fees. So that I tell them, Mommy, now next time maybe when you're buying them, because I mean we'd just give to the few we could
afford to give.
So I would tell him, Mommy, maybe let's add rice this time, maybe let's add this. And she was really impressed. She's like, oh, the big heart, you know. So anyway, so A-level I do foods and nutrition. So that's how my cake journey, my cake business begins. So I start to bake. Vacation, I baked. We did a small mini restaurant. Yeah, and then we come to campus. So I'm an accountant by profession, like you, so it's exciting. Yeah, so campus, because you're from the village, I'm from Busheni, you come, it's not like you're going to bake from hostel. So for some reason, I concentrate on books. So the career woman in me now comes out. So I read hard, work hard. Holidays, I would go to, I remember I did internship at Bank of Uganda, URA. Yeah, eventually I graduate, Kenya Airways, to Vivo Energy, eventually to Coca-Cola. But there was that passion in me I felt I had, you know, neglected.
And you wanted to start something,
yes,
you wanted to start a business.
Exactly. I felt like I wanted to start the business, but for what cause? To reach out to the woman. So I felt like while being in employment, I mean, I could have proceeds because we do CSR, but it didn't feel like I had a bigger impact to the society. So that is how before I resigned, I mean, I resumed my baking business. That's in 2017. So I would do part-time. Yeah. You go work, at night you bake. So that I see, you know, I get back to get the customers so that eventually when I maybe leave work, I know I can actually...
You've already set a foot out.
Exactly. So while doing that, I'll juggle between school, because I was doing my master's, SCCA, then you juggle between business, then also the reach out, because for me, this is like it. It's amidst everything, this is it.
Okay,
yes.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So you have this passion and you've set out to do what you've done. I'm curious to know, and also Joanita can come in, because the research that they do usually encompasses micro, small, and medium enterprises rather. Yeah. And we noticed that usually there's a lot of outcry, and young people who start businesses feel like they're not being supported enough, but the research can help us to know at what percentage. What's been your journey trying to finance your own business, especially when you stepped out of the corporate world? Okay, so
I resigned in 2018. The good thing is I just gotten married, so I had support from my husband. And, well, we started what we could, but by then I was still working from home. But I had the good time to actually now go to communities. Sometimes I would get normal friends support. They're like, you know what, we want to, let's say, sponsor 8 women, maybe in Kapchora. Here are the funds, you know. You go to Kapchora, sit down with these women, you find out what is it they actually want to learn. Not just the baking, is it tailoring, is it just counseling? So you just, when you reach there and you find out, so we got partners on board. So we did that for like a year, and that was 2019, 2020. And for some reason, funds were, you know, they were not enough. You'd find someone just sponsors the basic. So that's how I decided to now get out, put the bakery out there so that it can actually so that we can have enough income to reach out to many, not just the ones who are sponsored, but maybe also us as a business. We can do this because this is our main goal, to reach out to that woman. You know, actually, when you reach out and sit with these women, you find that these women, like, they are suffering. And just the small you can give them, the small, not just the money, that skill. Let's say if someone there's a lady in Bara, I taught mandazi, just mandazi. Imagine how it's so basic to learn just mandazi. And she started slowly, and you know, by the time, because we keep in touch, so part of NutriPal, we have a business incubation. Yeah. So when you train you, we actually follow up, we keep up, we still follow up, find out how you're doing, market for you, help you get, you know, like teach you business. Since I'm an accountant, we teach you how to do nice bookkeeping, so that actually you keep up.
Yeah.
So right now what we are not able to do is to give you the startup capital. But for those who are able to start, because we usually teach them from the basics, not start with maybe an electric oven, not start with that electric tailoring machine.
And they understand that some of that equipment is quite expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
So usually when we reach there, we find maybe we get like maybe 10 women, we give them a charcoal oven. Or even teach them how to use firewood. So you find someone, if they are very serious, because I mean, they say you can't take a horse to the river and, you know,
force it to drink water.
Exactly. So, but usually those who pick up, we follow them up, and actually they are doing well. So that lady in Bara currently tells me she sells about 1,000 mandazi per day.
Wow.
I mean, impressive. That contributes to, you know,
her income and empowers her.
Exactly. So that makes us happy. So back to your question, if we could have more funding on board, I believe we could reach out to many people.
More funding on board.
Yes.
And that's where Joanita comes in, because they did that research. I think you recommended that, especially when we look at the past 2 years, where business went really low because of the lockdown, and government had to issue a stimulus package of about 1 trillion shillings. But you carried out research and you found that there were gaps in where that money reached. If you can tell us more about that.
Okay. I like the fact that she says she engages women and they tell her what they want. And this is one of the drivers of equality, that women should be the actors, should be the drivers of their own transformation. And these are some of the areas we are advocating for. How do they be part? But also, now that you talk about the funding, we have followed, yes, like you said. And government, yes, as a response to the impact of COVID-19 on businesses, they put in place financial packages. Yeah. And these are the stimulus funds we're talking about. But do not forget that women mainly dominate the micro sector. On the SME trail, they are in the micro sector mainly, like she was talking about. They are doing the startup businesses by 70%. So I agree with all the facts you are collecting. However, the funding that government put in place that is addressing the micro sector is a very small fund, small amounts of money. But also, why small amounts of money? Because we have found that most of the women do not have productive assets to access bigger finances, bigger credit facilities. You'll find that women do not have collateral. They do not have land. They do not own land. They do not own movable assets. And these are the collateral that would assist them in acquiring these credit facilities. So when government put in place funding, I would not even call it is not sufficient, but just to support women to recover, to uplift them from the deepened marginalization. So we have the Emyoga funds in place. Yeah. Yes. And then we have the Parish development model rolling out. It also has a financial inclusion pillar, and that's the Parish Revolving Fund. And these are fundings that go to the lowest unit. Emyoga is addressing the regional structure of Uganda. And the beauty with Emyoga is that it's addressing all the enterprise sectors, the producers, the saloon women, those business startups of the mandazi, for example, women with stalls, market vendors. But now the Parish Revolving Fund, for it is mainly addressing, only addressing actually producers, people who are in the agro sector. That means it's leaving out other enterprises. But then now, as you've seen, it has been, I think, showcased in most of the media and TV houses and radio houses. Emyoga was not
well disbursed.
Not even well disbursed. It had issues. It was not well administered at regional levels. first of all, the challenge is that, yes, government says that in a way it addresses women entrepreneurs. How? It's put a circle for women entrepreneurs. Remember, Emyoga is specific. The target groups are specific, borders, what. Yeah. But when it came to women, it said women entrepreneurs. Yeah. That means a woman who does mandazi, who makes mandazi, a woman who is in saloon, they can all come collectively, form a circle, and then be able to access this money. Yeah. But the challenge with this again is that when you look at what a circle is, it will be a total of about 450 members in a constituency. And this is a big number. By the time you come together and organize yourselves as women entrepreneurs and form a circle, it's already time consuming. Yeah. It is already frustrating, and most of the women in the process break off and rather save or. But also the other requirement was that these women had to first save to be able. Within this circle had to save about 10 million to be able to access the 30 million. So remember, this 30 million that government is giving is addressing about 450 women. In other words, not just women, these are businesses. Let us say it's addressing 450 businesses. Yeah. So this was very challenging for women to be addressed. And it's a revolving fund, meaning if, Martha, for example, you have a business, go and ask for that Myoga money, they'll wait for you. They'll wait for you to bring back the money and again loan me. But also these businesses were impacted on the grace period. The women have talked about the grace periods. We've been around regionally, by the way, following up the Emyoga and the performance of these monies around the region. Yeah, and you've mentioned the region. I know you cover Eastern and Southern Africa. When you compare, for example, because it also helps when we understand how our neighbors are doing or how we stand regionally. From the research that you've done and the observations you've done, the stimulus package, for example, that government rolled out, how do we compare to the other countries in the region? I know that we tend to have very good and focused, we have good intentions. So would you say that it's being reflected in the implementation? Yes and no. The good intention is that, yes, they are financing the women. But how about the stringent conditions attached to access of this money? Do women have the capacity to access this money? And what goes into that capacity, if you can help us understand, what's that capacity? What does it translate into? Capacity translates into organizing themselves in groups, applying for this money, saving, and again now going to access the money. Because the money is not at the districts. The money is actually in the banks. Microfinance Support Center is the one disbursing this money. So at the end of the day, after them organizing their paperwork, now again they are sent out to Ministry of Trade, which Ministry of Trade now again sends out the money to sends out the application forms to Micro Support Center. So again now it now comes back to this circle to open up an account with the bank for them to be able to access this money. But again, one of the things that we noticed is that there are so many circles, those that persisted and applied, and the money is, microfinance put the money on their accounts. However, still the money is there. They went through the application process, but they can't access the money again. So you find that there are still so many challenges of women, the capacity of women to access. Now, most of them give up in that process. But also you told me, I want to talk about the question you told me, how are the stimulus packages working elsewhere regionally? Now, when you compare to Kenya, the governments have not only given out cash handouts, but they go ahead to support through providing markets. They'll say, now this is a women entrepreneurs circle, what is it dealing in? Maybe they even go ahead to the BDS she was talking about, the business development skills that they offer. They'll even give them a target production to make, for example, maybe produce desks, maybe produce cakes. And then now in the government ministries, they'll purchase the cakes, they'll provide the markets for the cakes, which is not happening in Uganda. For the procurement center. It's not happening in Uganda. They give you money, but at the end of the day, when you receive the money, do they even follow up on how that money is utilized?
Is being used, yeah.
Yeah, because you see, most of accountability, but also following up on the utilization.
Yeah, yeah.
Most of the women get the money and divert it to other business. She got the money as a salon maker and then she puts it in poultry.
And there's no follow-up.
And there's no follow-up, but also at the end of the day, when it gets to a time of her returning the money, it means by the time this poultry harvests this income, it will be late for her to be able to get this money from the business.
So that's your
so
financial
advice. A loan form.
Maybe
like no interest,
and by the way,
you're supposed to take it and eventually...
Exactly. All these facilities, financial facilities, credit facilities, stimulus packages government has put in place, we should be very clear. Yeah. They are loans.
Oh, they are loans.
They're not grants.
Yeah.
They are no grants. There is no giveaway money. There is a little interest attached to them, though, more affordable. Yeah. However, they are loans.
So that means
so basically,
we are setting
I
a
would
trap.
imagine they are set out for profit-making businesses, not non-for-profit businesses.
No,
because
it's for business.
I imagine,
business.
Take a look at this.
Expects business to be profit-making.
You get take a look at this. Yeah. This branch of NutriPal basically reaches out to women. So you reach out, you're giving out these skills, you're empowering. We are basically looking at empowerment. Yeah, you're looking at the low income. They don't even have income. I don't even think they're called low income earners. And you know, actually, if you ever do a survey in the villages, let's say if you take a look and you want to look at those who are really, really not doing well, you find it's either a widow, it's either a single mom, it's either they are married and the guy maybe is a drunkard. There's a way, you can't walk in a home and you find a man and he's stuck. It's so rare, you know? Yeah. So I imagine how you're going to reach out to this woman in the village, because let's first leave alone the women here in Kampala, the women in Bara,
but even
in Jinja, in Bali.
Because our society is not so homogeneous, that you either have those who are making it and those who are not. Exactly. It's a mixed bag.
Yeah, because I'm looking at those, even here in Kampala, by the way, there are those who are married, and you find a woman is, even just counseling skills it's all they need, you know. For me, when being the person who has actually gotten different women and you speak to them and you listen to them, because you might reach and you're like, I think I need to give you tailoring skills, and this person only needs just counseling, just encouraging them
to do what they're passionate
mental health,
about,
because this equality you're talking about, maybe the guy does not think of them to be, they can't contribute anything to the table. All they have to do is maybe give birth and I don't know, take care of the kids, and just their mindset already is just rotten. Yeah?
Just to bring you back, you had mentioned something earlier. You said you're a co-founder of NutriPal. Yeah. And there's a conversation, something we had mentioned earlier. I'm curious to know, because you mentioned that women tend to be in the informal sector. And when you start up something, there's also a challenge towards accessing these funds when you've not, say, legalized your business. Exactly. So if someone is helping you, does that make them automatically a co-owner of your business? If anything is to happen, what's the legalese in there?
Oh, now if for her, as an owner, as a founder of her business, by the virtue of the fact that she's a married woman, then her husband is, by default, is her next of kin. So in case of any form of transition and you pass on, all your property is passed on. Your property is passed on to your next of kin. However, there is a percentage by law of succession. 15% shall go to the legal spouse. 15% of your properties. And then the other percentage, that's 75%, shall go to your dependents, that's your parents, and the people, your cousins, and who have been depending on the deceased, but also the children of the deceased now are catered in that 75%. So now, as a co-owner of business, by default, your husband is the next of kin.
That means if anything happens, even in case of death, by default?
By default, does
that become just the percentage?
However, it can change a bit in case the deceased has a will, for example, and is very specific on who should succeed their business. Yeah, she could be clear and say, this business is for my children. Now there, the law will defend the children. But by the virtue of the fact that you're a married woman, the husband, also you have entitlement by law to your husband's property, but by 15%. And for us as a discussion, we feel this percentage is very small by the nature of protecting a woman. And that 15% actually exempts the marital home. So the 15% of the property minus the marital home and where it stands. So take an example of, we were talking about the poverty levels of Uganda. When we see a family and ownership, it is rare unless we are discussing at a higher level. But the level we are at, you'll find that maybe there's a few hectares of land that a man owns, and maybe a movable asset like a car. So if it's limiting a woman to 15% of the man's property, that means that this woman maybe now after the deceased husband can own the deceased's car. And then this land now is going to be shared amongst the dependents and children.
So if it's a business like, say, a man is a border rider, or if the woman, say, owns a stall in Nakasero market, how is that?
If it's a business like a border rider, which is a good example, it means that you're going to get this border, let it still operate, let it still be in business, but at the end of the day, collectively sit and get 15% of the money, of the income from the border shall go to the woman, and the 75% shall cater for the rest.
Okay, we are going for a very short break. When we return, we'll delve deeper into the research that has been done by SEATINI. We're talking about inequalities that are faced by women in business, and that's part of the conversations that we are having in the lead up to International Women's Day, where we are calling for equality. And that means if there are two pedestals, we're not just lifting women above the men, but we want to ensure that there's no inequality in society. Don't blink.
Kwepena is back. Come have original Ugandan fun and play the African way at the biggest celebration of Indigenous African Games. Make your way to the Uganda Museum on Sunday, 6th March 2022 and play Kwepena as you relive old memories and have a good time with family and friends. We shall also play games like Duel, Sonko, Mweso, Blada, and many more as top-notch DJs and performers keep you entertained. Early bird tickets are available at 10K online and 15K at the door. For reservations, contact 0784 218 964 or 0752 208 608. Kwepena is presented by Cheza and powered by Campus B, Up About, Party Prep 256, KQ Hub Africa, and CTV. Kwepena, play the African way.
Mahatma Gandhi famously said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." We all have the power to change the way we feel about ourselves, others, and the world at large. The Impact is an interactive, social, and empowering platform that showcases how different change drivers have transformed community livelihoods. We bring you real-life stories of hope, resilience, change, inspiration, and bringing stakeholders to account. The Impact premieres on CTV Monday, 7th March at 9 a.m. Only on CTV. Don't blink.
Welcome back here on CTV. You're watching the Month of the Woman, as we've termed it. It's special programming that is holding conversations on issues that affect women and girls in society and also adolescents, as we started earlier on in the program. And today we're talking about inequalities in our society when it comes to businesses that are owned by women. And with me, we have two lovely ladies, a business owner in her own right, and a researcher. I'll just call you a researcher because SEATINI does a lot of research on trade, economics, and policy, not just in Uganda, but in Eastern and Southern Africa. And before we went for a short break, we had mentioned something about funding. You mentioned that you needed funding to reach out to more women, and just an example, because when we have the figures that are coming from SEATINI, we need a face to affirm and confirm what exactly is happening in society. So what are some of the challenges that you've seen, because we're talking about empowerment? If you have your business and you need to reach out to more people, what are the common mistakes that you've observed that women tend to do that then take them off the radar of accessing the funds that exist to support their businesses?
The first challenge that I see is the fact that women are not proactive. When they know about these programs, they are very slow in accessing these programs. But also, women give up easily, especially in terms of these challenges and that back and forth. First of all, the back and forth is expensive. Yeah. You find that a woman at the end of the day is going to access 30 million, and it's a very big circle, member-owned, and they are not facilitating this person to go back and forth to the district. They are from different constituencies, miles away. So they give up easily. And those that have been able to access are women who have been very proactive. There are women who have been very patient in the process, and there are women who did not give up. But also the other biggest challenge why women are still stuck in the microsector is the fact that they are operating in informal businesses, in informal structures.
Why is it, because you mentioned earlier that it's women who are in micro businesses, why is it that it's the women in micro businesses?
Why is it? Because of the responsibility, for example. Women have care burdens. Yeah. At the end, we work hand to mouth. Yeah. The income mainly a woman makes will go to essential needs back at home. Yeah. So women start small. Remember, we do not have the capital, first of all. We do not own collateral, low levels of income, low levels of collateral, unpaid care work, and the nature of the inequalities in society that impede a woman from starting up big. Yeah. So we start up very small. But also the fact that as you start up small, this money is going to essential needs. That means that what you make is what goes back.
Instead of growing your business.
Instead of putting it in your business, your income will finance your essential needs of the home. And that has been a challenge. Yeah. But also the fact that women, by the way, women are very ignorant. They're very ignorant of where the finances are. Women are used to that little saving. They have circles, by the way. They are very organized. They have circles in their yes, and they borrow amongst each other. But it's still very little money. It's not sufficient to grow a woman and lift them from. But also their businesses are informal. That means the business is not registered. And the moment your business is not registered, that means at time of succession, your husband will just take it over, or anyone. Even a neighbor can take over your business. Women are easily manipulated by society, easily. So women should formalize their businesses. In other words, to benefit more. From funds. They can start from compliance to market dues. Yeah. These are small taxes, but you know, they give you a position.
Yeah. I think we have a fear for taxes as well.
For generally compliance to taxes, yes. Compliance to taxes, these market dues women should pay. They should not run away, because that helps them organize and get a firm ground, get a platform. And banks and even these small microfinances, they are there, minus the money that government has brought in, the credit facilities it's offering. Yeah. There are still microfinances that are so little but are supporting the women in case they're organized in groups. But they should be tax compliant, they should have their businesses registered. But also women now should work towards standardizing their products. How do you work out your business?
Before you even go to standardization, you're talking about registering your business. Yeah. And someone might be watching us house and saying, I have a small kiosk. I'm just selling, you know, milk out of a fridge and bread that comes. Do I have to register that business as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And that pulls you from the informal to the formal sector now. The moment you have a name of your business, that means Uganda Revenue Authority will be aware that Martha has a business somewhere. And that's the starting point. Yeah. Okay. And that means that now on a portal, for example, for Ministry of Trade, it can put your business there. There is a portal. There are business portals right now. They can showcase your business, and that creates more market for you. Whereby
even like how you talked about those circles, they actually help the women who, for example, those ones who do very small businesses. You know, registering a company is actually expensive to the low income earners, 500,000 and above, you know. So now the circles you talked about actually help these women. They come together. I sell milk, I sell chapati, I tailor. So when they are registered under circle, now they register as one. And that actually helps them, even when, for example, you talked about the funding aspect. It's easier. They're already under a certain umbrella.
You can access more funding in or a bigger credit facility. But also I would like the challenges, like you said. And the moment these women upscale their businesses, formalization is the number one, is the starting point of upscaling a business. And then now you can grade more, you can upscale more. So
you're talking about standardization. Before I cut you off earlier, standardizing a business. Tell us also what that translates into. If we're still going back to the kiosk, if I have that kiosk and I have a fridge and I'm selling passion fruit, but I have a dream maybe one day to have a supply chain. So how do I go into that?
Well, how do you go into that? Standardization starts from the environment in place. How clean is your environment? Where do you place your products? Are they placed in a way that all the sun rays directly hits all the bread and what? So it is a way you organize and structure your business, but putting into consideration the fact of health. How healthy is it in case it is consumed? What do you put in place? In case you are on Maram,
the dusty,
sort of. So what do you put in place to reduce the dust that gets into your business? That's standards. So that tomorrow, if someone eating a mandazi from me will not say that there was dust in how clean is the environment? Then now after standardizing, improving the business structure, improving the environment where you're operating, then now that is when UNBS comes in to look at your business, to see if it complies to the standard, if it's meeting the standards that are expected for its operations. However, that process is also a bit expensive, like most of, and it's quite hard to afford for the women.
I think that's what brings in the point where she said maybe now coming together as different people doing different businesses.
So women, we are still challenged in that area. However, we are addressing, and the Ministry of Trade is working towards addressing these issues, especially on costs, on women qualifying, of businesses qualifying for QMAC, because even your business should qualify.
But I think, again, that's where organizations like Nutripal come in place. All you're talking about, these women actually don't know. Someone thinks they wake up one day, maybe buy like bananas, and you start to sell them. They don't have the business skills. Besides the business skills, the standardization. Someone does not know that actually I need to maybe to sell in a clean place. I need to, like you talked about how the woman fails to manage the finances. They're selling, they have the essential needs. They don't know about business money is business money. This is how I should do the bookkeeping. So I feel like maybe we need to do more awareness, more sensitization, more training, because actually they do not know. So when you reach out and in our business incubation, we now at Nutripal, we also train people how to bake. Then we have partners on board who train the other different things.
Business ideas, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So now when they come in and you train them, a skill is not just enough.
Yeah.
So someone is willing, they tell you, I'm ready to start, I'm ready. So, you know, now you take them through. So if you're willing to start, this is what it takes. You have to register. You're not convincing someone that to register your business. They think, no, I haven't made the money. No, I haven't. Actually, now you train them, tell them the benefits, how you have to be faithful in paying your taxes. And this is very key. And I've seen people actually embrace it. They embrace it more when they have the information, the knowledge, than when maybe KCCA comes and says, hey, you have to register. Or you have
but also when we talk about the issue of standardization, the fact that the biggest challenge, like you said, women cannot afford these equipments. So government should provide food-gradable machinery, common user facilities. For example, now for, let's say, like you said, women are the initial stage of production, and they are the laborers. But when they produce, they do not have the capacity of the safe post-harvesting skills.
I think the organization, a government agency that is close to that is URI. They have a branch in Nakawa and another one where they're helping those who are starting small. I think,
but also providing these facilities. If women are making mandazis, what do they need? Can we put facilities in place that are supportive of them to improve the standards, not to expose their mandazis to, not just doing it the manual way they could expose it to more bacteria and clean environments, provide machinery and food gradable, because at the end of the day, UNBS is going to say that that machine, there are chemicals, there's metal in your mandazi you're making.
Which is entering the ingredients that you're using.
Exactly.
And I believe that's where maybe funding comes in place.
Yeah, that's when actually for us as SEATINI, we are saying women do not need the money, the cash handouts, especially the fact that they are minimal. The money they're giving them is small. Put in place these facilities. They are more helpful. They are more helpful for them.
I want to disagree with that. You know why? Yes, it will be helpful to a certain percentage. Remember, I've told you there are different interests.
And different needs.
And different needs. So you want to first find out the problem and address that. Now, I'll get an example. I recently was at URI and I had a training. Usually, URI is very, very, very helpful when you have like a certain group and they can actually help you with their facilities. You take the other people. That's if the people have not asked you to actually provide them transport to take them there. Because usually if it's in maybe Gayaza, you need to meet them in Gayaza. If it is in Jinja, you need to meet them in Jinja. Meet them under that shade, in different place. And then find out from them. Most of these women need a skill. Some will tell you, me, I think if I learn how to tailor, I think I can do it. And actually, when you actually train them, they will even be better.
So that's when you provide the
now that's where now the funding comes in
and
you provide. But remember, you have not provided that funding to the person who has gone to Jinja to find these women. Because for me, I believe empowerment to these women is very good, but also to find them because where they are at that point of need. Because for me, I have, for example, at Nutripal, we have in different districts, we have like the small offices there where people come in and tell us now we have these women and that, because people know that this is what Nutripal does, you know. So they will come and tell you, you know, now we are a group of 50 women and what. And as usual, you're like, 50 women, you know. I just sold a wedding cake. How do I reach out to this? So it's not just the reason why we have a bakery is because we want to create this extra money to reach out to the women. But now it cannot reach out to as many as there is, because already in the
and that's also something we are addressing of extension services.
Thank you.
While you identify the needs in the different regions of the country, maybe they're tailors, how many people should an extension service address? Uganda, by policy, one common user facility by ratio addresses 1 to 5,000. So 1 to 5,000 is a very big number.
Yes, it is.
I think we all agree in that.
Yes, it is.
Because we've already said that even a circle itself, 450 is a very big number. But now we are saying, as SEATINI Uganda, let the extension service at least one facility to address 500.
That would be like
so
a
if you're
circle,
putting a chalani, for example, an embroidery machinery for these tailors, at the end of the day, they need embroidery maybe to put the badges on the t-shirts. Let that machine address at least 500 tailors,
which is also still
according
high.
to the region, which is also still high, but fairer than 5,000.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think this extension service, because when you ask the women, when we went around and we were asking the women, what do you actually need this money for? How are you going to utilize the money in case you access this funding? They were talking about machines. I'll buy a chalani because I have one chalani now and it can only do this much.
Yeah.
It will not be able to
Perhaps
do
it's not even the right quality.
Yeah, the right quality and what. So my focus is when I get this chalani and with these materials, I'll be able to get the materials somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
So usually the need is the equipment.
It's very
The
key.
need is the facilities.
It's
You
the
find a
handwork, not
woman
just the
baking and
cash,
she
yes.
says, I would have done better if I get out of these traditional ovens and get an oven.
Yeah.
So the need is an oven.
Standardized, yes.
So what
So
I'm
how
hearing
do
from
we-
you on any woman or anyone who has a woman in their life who is watching us is to, get better. And as we are trying to bridge the gap, the inequality gap, is one, women should be more assertive in
Yes,
looking for funds,
yes,
educate
proactive.
themselves, be proactive, and then legalize your business, because now that takes you, however small your business is, work very hard to make sure that it's legalized, or if it's too hard, because truthfully the fees can be quite high for people, come together as a group, and then that makes it easier for you, and then now work on standardization, be clean in whatever you do, don't just ignore yourself. And then she mentioned something about, because you had talked about how we eat, hand to mouth, but now when you do your business, then be intentional on, plowing back some of that funds into your business so that your business can grow at some point. And that now brings me to something that you had mentioned in one of the reports by SEATINI, where you mentioned that the competitiveness of our businesses is lacking. And I do not know how that compares, especially in the region. Maybe the competitiveness of the businesses in Uganda to, say, Kenya and other countries in the region.
Now back to the competitiveness. Yes, we are lagging behind in competitiveness, true. But because
Uganda is lagging behind across the region.
Uganda is lagging behind. It is evident.
So we need to pull up our socks.
Yeah, because now again, for the cross-border traders, they are mainly informal, and that is by 70 to 80%. And women are the biggest players. They're the cross-border traders. They cross those borders with primary products. They'll go with their pineapples, they'll go with their mangoes.
The same way we sell across on the roads,
Yes, and that already reduces the revenue. By statistics, Uganda is losing $32.6 million because of primary products exporting. So we are working on adding value. How can that mango be upscaled? How can you add value? And that value addition comes right from harvesting. What are the good methods of harvesting that you're putting in place? But also, what are the food gradable facilities that government is providing? Because these women in the micro sector cannot afford these machineries. And now government should incentivize by provision of common user facilities. But also standards. I think you watched that season when our maize was banned.
Yes.
Right now, Lato milk has not met the Kenyan standard yet.
Yeah.
Have you noticed? Yeah. But here we take a lot of needle. Do you notice?
Yeah.
So the level of importation, the level of goods that come in from outside and how much we export,
It's not balancing.
There's a gap, yes. But why it's not balancing is that because we do not meet the standards when we leave our national market. And that
I have a contribution to that.
And that bridges us to adding value to our products. That leads us to improving on our standards and being standard compliant, but also calls for other countries for us to have a uniform standard. So that
which is what the Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement is pushing us to do.
Is pushing for us. Because you'll find that my Lato milk, for example, has qualified for a QMAC in Uganda. But also, for Uganda. But when I take it out of Uganda, it does not meet the Kenyan standard. But also one thing we've noticed along the way is also the commitment to meet the standards. Is it about you qualifying for QMAC and you get the stamp right there on your products, and then now you change on the way you operate your business? Are you still meeting the standards?
Oh, so
this has been a challenge.
There has to be vigilance.
There's no consistency.
Consistency. I think generally I would agree that we struggle with consistency as a country. Yes.
It is very key. But also productivity and production is also still a big challenge. We cannot produce sustainably. There are markets. People bring in, there are so many traders from outside, ESC, but also maybe WTO from Kenya, and they want mangoes. And they'll say, can you afford to give us 1,000 tons of mangoes for this year? And then our Ugandan farmers will say, yes, we can.
Yeah.
And they can, even in the first month, they can't sustain even the first month.
Yeah.
And these are the challenges. So how do we address the issues of production? The lack of sustainability in production.
Yeah.
But also how do
what would you propose for sustainability, for example, or consistency?
For consistency and sustainability. Government, now these are the roles of government. By the time there is no sustainability in production, then there are issues. Here you should not, I think, blame the farmers.
Yeah.
Government should bridge ways to address these issues. Government, it is their role to organize the production sector. By providing proper agrochemicals to support production.
Yeah.
We are now talking about women being at the initial stage of production, being the actual laborers.
Yeah.
But women do not own land. Address the issues of land ownership for women. If you can cluster women and say this woman and this woman and this woman in this region, we are providing this piece of land for them. You're leasing for them land for them to produce. It will be sustainable. But you can't tell me that someone has a 25 decimal piece of land and you expect them to be consistent. What are the safe agrochemicals? So that at the end of the day, when I use those chemicals on my products, tomorrow they're not telling me that your product has harmful chemicals. These are the challenges
that they're facing.
Let's
think you wanted to
add
something.
I think she addressed what I wanted to add.
What you wanted to add on.
Yes, but I totally agree with what she's saying. You know, at the end of the day, we can blame government, but I wish, for me, I would take it to maybe if it can provide the funding. So now farmers usually provide these products. The first round, let's say the mangoes, they do not meet the standard. Do you know, that 1 ton you have given, it has not met the standard, they've not given it back to you.
But it has been even
so
a struggle
if research
to
can
collect
be,
it.
Exactly, it has been a struggle.
To collect
if research
it.
can be put in place and they now research on that mango, how can we improve it? Can we provide the right seedlings, the right chemicals? But now usually government leaves it there, maybe Ugandan
No, but that's the role of government.
Yes, so now
it should organize the
research,
production sector.
Yes,
because it's what can make things better.
Yeah, the market is there. The market is there.
The market is there.
Yeah. Now, privately, I do honey. I do honey farming.
Yeah.
So beekeeping, you find by then, before I got into baking a lot. You find would as a community get together as farmers. You know, we talk about the things we need, how we can improve, and you know, you submit these maybe to the LC one, and then you think they'll be escalated. And where you have stopped is where you have stopped.
Where it stops.
So you find, or maybe they'll promise you this time. You remember what happened to there were tea seedlings some time back, where NADS came in, told people invest in, you know, we must buy these seedlings. Ugandans, I'm sure if you're out there and you're watching and you remember that story, people invested in this money, up to they are still crying. You know, they got the quality. By then they brought a certain seedling, they said this is the best on the market. People got it, they started. At the end of the day, there was no market. What happens? Most farmers, so when I actually usually see coffee farming, different people coming out there now, there are different NGOs and different organizations that are actually looking for better ways. And this is through funding. They bring maybe the best machine that can sort to know this is the right grade needed on the market. Honestly, it's not my sector, but I feel like quality and consistency is very key.
Or maybe you can join the sector.
And sustainability, is very key. And now let's talk a bit about the parish development model, because it's mainly going to address these issues. When you look at the pillars of the parish development model, they are very, would I say attractive or very good, if government can meet them.
But from your research, because as a layperson, when I look at the monies that they are proposing, I'm worried.
It's very little money. Yeah.
So
very
from
little money.
From the research that you've carried out, I do not know how you would predict the impact of this parish development model.
Yeah, we just like all other government programs, we predict that it is going to have quite a number of gaps. None different from the Emyoga funds, none different from NADS, none different from Entandikwa. I mean, it's historical that there are challenges. But this time now it has come in this, with this level of advocacy, when we are all, and we can address these issues. How can we inform government to be able to work better on this model, since it's addressing the parish, the lowest unit, and this is where the micro person comes from, the producer, that unpaid care work. How do they support them to be able? We say they should organize the production, provide quality seedlings, and the money they are talking about, by the way, let us be clear, that money is addressing pillar 3. The financial inclusion pillar. That is also another credit facility going out to support the producers to purchase the seeds, to purchase the agrochemicals, the fertilizers, and also to support them do a bit of harvesting, proper harvesting for there. But government should put in place the money addressing the other pillars. Government is silent about the other pillars. It is only vocaling the parish revolving fund. So on the other pillars, they're talking about infrastructure development. So infrastructure development should not leave out the food gradable machinery. It should not leave out the trampolines for harvesting. These things should be provided at a ratio of 1 to 500 for these people to all access. They should not leave out value addition. It is government is working on putting in place industrial parks. They are going to put in place these industrial parks, and they'll get mangoes from Kenya. But they are not going to support. How do they procure from our producers? You get
these funds are put in place without research.
Without research. So we shall hold that thought right there, and we'll come back to it when we come back from this very short break. Don't blink.
As we embark on a journey to realize our full potential, we all need expanded minds and limitless possibilities. We need to be accurately informed. CTV is your growth partner. With reliable, in-depth news, we tell the story from all perspectives. We bring you the story in real time. Catch our comprehensive daily bulletins in Juba Egolodie at 7 p.m. and PM edition at 9 p.m. CTV, don't blink.
Now Ugandans, as you know, us tuli bantu abatayagala kututegerera wadde. That's why at CTV we're working tirelessly to make that possible. Now my name is Tim Cash, and alongside one DJ Frost to bring you the brunch time request Lubabu.
You make me jump like kangaroo.
I really love Livelihood. Amanya Jetu Bonge.
Dance for me, chicky bong, my number one. You know you the ginger. If you know you the cause you drop.
Now this show happens every single weekday between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Now showing on CTV, don't blink.
Let's hop in my Maserati.
Mahatma Gandhi famously said, Be the change you want to see in the world. We all have the power to change the way we feel about ourselves, others, and the world at large. The Impact is an interactive, social, and empowering platform that showcases how different change drivers have transformed community livelihoods. We bring you real-life stories of hope, resilience, change, inspiration, and bringing stakeholders to account. The Impact premieres on CTV Monday, 7th March at 9 a.m. Only on CTV. Don't blink.
Hello and welcome back from that short break. You are watching CTV Month of the Woman, which is special programming that we're bringing you in the lead up to International Women's Day. CTV is a channel for women and young women especially, and that's why we are holding these conversations in line with the theme for International Women's Day on bridging the gap between men and women, boys and girls in society. And today we're talking about a very pertinent issue on business ownership and working in businesses, because when a woman or when anyone in society is economically empowered, it helps, the society at large. And before we went for the short break, we were talking about how women especially can strategize themselves, or what strategies they can put in place in order to benefit from the funds that are available or to grow their businesses, because we see that most of our women are in the informal sector, and when funds are rolled out, they tend to miss. So that we answered before we went for a short break. But also now, I'd like to know, but what funds are available? So if we've told people, get to know what you're doing, strategize, inform yourself, we can start with that right now. What funds are available for women? If I have a small business and I want to benefit, where do I go?
Yeah. So now we shall talk about the post-COVID-19 funding. First of all, then we can briefly talk about the pre-COVID
funding.
Yeah. So we have the Emyoga fund. I think most of the women have heard at least about that funding. So that mainly addresses the micro sector. Why the Emyoga? Because it does not require collateral, but also it also addresses women in organized groups to be able to access this money.
Collateral being the things that they need you to show, and most of the women,
the banks will need you as will need a security to be able to access
land or a house
or movable assets.
Which if you don't have, then that becomes easier to
You cannot go to the banks. You will not go to the financial institutions. So now we have Emyoga. Emyoga is at regional level, at local level, I would say, at district level. So you can go to the district officers, go find where your district offices are, and go and ask about the Emyoga and see how they support you to organize yourself to access this money. There is also the UWEP Fund. This is the Uganda Women Empowerment Program for Africa. So also this money, and this money for it, it's slightly better because for it allows women to be in smaller groups, 5 to 10. While the Emyoga calls for 450 women, this one will call for 5 to 10 women in organized groups to access 5 to 10 million to support them. Yeah. There's also now the one that we have rolled in after various policy proposals and advocacy with the ministry. The ministry has put in place the Small Business Recovery Fund. This small business is mainly addressing the small businesses. These are businesses that are formalized and they have a name, they are tax compliant. So they are organized. That fund, if someone wants from 5 to 100 million, that fund will be accessible. And it has very interesting modalities and very friendly and flexible for the small business owners to be able to access. But the beauty with this fund is that it also gives an allowance for women in the micro sector to access this money. And this time from financial institutions that will be stated by government. Already I've had Centenary Bank calling for people to go and access this money. In case you're accessing about 10 million, it will give you 5 million with a certain interest that does not exceed 10% percentage, that doesn't exceed 10%, and then a 5 million that is interest free. That means in case you've understood me, in case you wanted a loan of 10 million, 5 million will be interest free, And then the other 5 million will have a percentage that should not, interest percentage that should not go beyond 10%.
10%,
yeah. So we also have the UDB fund. It is still in existence, and this one is mainly addressing the medium enterprises. These are organized, these are tax compliant, big organizations. Yeah. These are organizations that are paying, that have NSSF returns, that have payroll for their workers. So that money, that's basically the stimulus fund. But what is rolling out now is also the Parish Revolving Fund. Mm-hmm. And this one is now going to the parishes now that it has been launched for the farmers, for the producers, the agro-processors to be able to access. And this one is also small because it's still addressing the micro sector. Yeah. So the amounts will be small, from 300,000 to 500,000, but it is also supportive once you organize and you focus and you have that skill to be able to focus this money to the right businesses and what it's supposed to be used in your business. So
those are the post-COVID, the post-COVID fund and the pre-COVID fund.
And the pre-COVID, yeah, pre-COVID now I talked about your WEP fund, but it's supposed to be in the pre-COVID funds. There's also the Youth Livelihood Fund, and this one is specifically for the youth, boys and girls to access. So these are funds being handled by Ministry of Gender. However, it also starts down at district level. So you can still go to your districts and access this money. For the Emyoga, UWEP, Parish Revolving Fund, Youth Livelihood Fund are at the district level. But for the SBRF, the UDB fund and the Small Business Recovery Fund, that one you're supposed to go to the financial institutions.
To access that.
To the banks to access that. But like I told you, women can access it in groups. Women in the micro sector, if they organize themselves, and their businesses can form a turnover, meaning that these women should be the ones that keep records and have their financial records with them. If they make a turnover of 5 to 10 million and they are organized in groups of 5 to 10 and a turnover of 5 to 10 million, they can go to these banks without collateral, without necessarily having land or movable asset to access this money.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's quite interesting. And you have also accessed some funds. Maybe you can tell us a bit of your journey trying to finance NutriPal, because those are, the agencies, but in your own way, how have you accessed funds to run your business?
I would say 95% has been business funds, of course, plus my husband's support. But the other small funding I have accessed is just individuals or NGOs, or sometimes you find, let's say, a big NGO has got a certain funding and they know that NutriPal can actually go to certain X place and they actually carry out the training, because what we basically do is we train, we empower, then we do that business incubation. And then also we have an innovation hub, where even besides those ones who are not interested in any of those ideas and they think they actually have these ideas, they come on board, we now develop the ideas, we help them, then we develop, we help them start, we follow up, we do the marketing until when they are good to actually go to the market. So I wouldn't say NutriPal has actually accessed this funding. And I wish that maybe the government can look at that social aspect, where you're looking out to empower, because we are looking out to empower. We are not looking out for funding to develop, to do more cakes, and that other leg is okay. But the passion, this passion to empower, to reach out. You see, as let's say a certain company comes in, it comes in as a baby company. It comes in, we develop the idea, we help them register, we follow them up, they grow, because surprisingly, so many people have ideas and they start and they fail, and that's it. But when they have a mentor, so what we do as NutriPal, we mentor these businesses. When they're at the verge of maybe giving up, they're like, no, this is the way you do it. Maybe you're going wrong here. Maybe we audit your books.
For failing, are they heavily from the ones you've met? Because I don't want us to speak superficially. Are they heavily reliant on the economics, or it's also the financial knowledge on how to run a business?
I would say both. being
the biggest contributor, yes.
Yeah, post-COVID is really, really economical. So many people have died a good death. I would say or you tell them about business, like, I injected in this much, I cannot come back. Yeah. And then, of course, now for this that impact on the ones in villages, so many of these don't have any financial knowledge. No. Even as you're, it's like, no. I know I will, for example, sell my land, I get out 10 million, and that's it. Things of writing on that book. So the financial knowledge is actually very key. So some of them, and especially the fact that we take them on as mentorship program, we don't allow them first reach the failing part. We are on follow-up, even as they fail. Even here in bakers in Kampala, now we have those who just pay and come in, normal bakers. Someone is here, they finish campus, they don't know what they're going to do, they are stuck, maybe 3 years, no job, and they get interested. So they come in, pay 1 million, they learn a skill. So after that skill, either they will get a loan or they already have money, so they start. So as they start, we follow them up, help them set a bakery. So this is not about competitiveness, it's about empowering. You get it?
Yes.
Help them set up the bakery, help them, even as, for example, you find some of them say, no, I don't have the money. Now, they get the orders on the market, we help them use our facilities, and then they're able to bake and sell. So they keep getting on that income. But accountability, we want to look at how are those books? How are your financials? Is it just you're writing only the income, you're not writing the expenses? Do you have a financial statement? Do you have a balance sheet? So some of those things, we help them to actually be very accountable. So the fact that they register now, they have to file in their returns.
And structurally, what other advantages? I know you have proposed from your research that government needs to look more into the structure for trade to enable businesses. But what exists in place right now that we might be, as women, are not taking advantage of as we should? What are some of those structures?
The structures that we're not taking
in
advantage
place,
of.
that we may not be taking advantage of fully, and yet they already exist. I know, maybe to also take it back, I read somewhere you mentioned that we're also not taking advantage of the national market very well, even when the market we've discussed earlier that it's a bit limited also compared to the region, but there's something, at least those who are succeeding, what are they doing right, so that other women can also take notes.
So for starters, women, first of all, there are viable markets. There are viable markets in place. But however, we as the women should pick interest. We should pick interest to be able to be part of, to be in case called upon to address issues. Let us be part of the processes that address the issues of women. Women are very timid. While we are here speaking, we are the few, like we say, the challenges affecting women are not homogeneous. Your challenge and my challenge are different. They depend on education, on sex, on culture. So when you go deep down in those villages, women are timid, like she said, they give their husbands they've come to formalize their business, and they'll give the pen to the husband to write for them. They turn
and maybe
up
register the business in the name of the husband.
Exactly. Let women, let all these processes addressing issues impacting on women be women-centric. Let women be at the center of their development. Let them be the drivers of their transformation. But also the other challenge is that we have systems that are not transparent. Let the governance systems in place be inclusive as possible, and
like which
accountable.
systems, for example? Like which structures,
for example, now we talk about the stimulus funding, for example. UDB did not perform the UDB fund. Are they being held accountable for not performing? It's not happening. It's not happening. The fact that that money was diverted to Akamwesi to construct the Akamwesi hostel, did they hold UDB accountable? Did they pull back the money? We do not see the redress mechanisms in place and not transparent. They are not fair. So that unfairness would still bridge the gaps, the inequality, intensify inequalities in the system. The other issue that government should address is it should reduce regressive taxing. So when you look at this VAT, these regressive taxes impact on the essential commodities.
Yeah.
And these are commodities that are mainly accessed by women.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, this woman is burdened. There is a tax on fuel, and the woman has to go out to work. There is a VAT tax on soap, and it's the woman. The man will walk out and will not mind if there is soap at home or not. So at the end of the day, let them encourage, let them prioritize progressive taxing rather than regressive taxing. Let it be a people-centered governance.
Yeah.
Let us listen to the issues, the challenges of the people, the challenges of the women, and address them. Let us not imagine and create problems that are not in existence. Let us study and analyze and see where the problem is springing from and be able to address. In Mbale, there are common user facilities. Mbale is a coffee growing region. But you'll find a common user facility of maize. What is it doing in Mbale? Instead of providing food-gradable and post-harvesting machineries, granaries for coffee, they are providing for maize. Did they study the needs of the region? So some of these are the challenges. But also government prioritizing service sector servicing.
Yeah.
So much. Education, health, these at the end of the day directly impact on the women. Because if the child is sick, the woman will not be able to work. If the family is dwindling, it affects the woman directly.
Which you have a personal experience with us, as you shared with us in the beginning. As I shared with you.
Yeah. So they should put in place facilities, incentives to support women be able to uplift themselves right from the lowest unit, the home, until where they're going to do business from. And that's when now they can address the issues. Let them look at the Emyoga and see how much it's addressing the women, how many women have benefited. Let them call back the Emyoga and study how many women circles are actually benefiting.
Should we hope that SEATINI will do research for us on that?
We have done research on that. Yeah. We've been around the regions, like I said. We've been in Lira, and specifically looking out for women who have benefited, yes, in the women program.
Are the findings ready?
Justice. Yes, the findings are ready. So we found that in northern region, it's when we moved around, we found that Lira, those women are very interesting. Those women are proactive. They are old women, but they are very vibrant women. And this is something we realize. They are very interested in development programs that will not pick for most of the women. Women, when you build their capacities, they'll go back home with the knowledge and sit back and wait for you. Like she said, where you stopped is where you find it. But these are very proactive women. They're women who are very fast, and they're women who persisted until they got this money. So that makes them different. But also, what structures do we put in place at regional level to address such issues? Ordinances. They can help the women start meeting the standards. This is how you harvest. But also, if you do not harvest in a proper way, and maybe a community development officer found your coffee on the ground without maybe putting it on a trampoline or something. What are the repercussions? This is where we should start addressing such issues. And they be cautious, and they start complying to the requirement to meet standards.
Would you say that what you found in Lira is maybe culturally...
No, is
there a link?
I feel like they are very business vibrant. Energetic. They like business. They are energetic. Now, when we came to Kampala, also, when you go to Kalere Market, those women are empowered. Kalere Market, they listen to these programs. They're very attentive and they're very proactive. They'll go the next day. They'll be calling you. What's happening? How do we do it? You tell them, Mama, tugenda kulemerako. Tugenda kulemerako, you have to get this money. And these are the attitudes we need. So let us work a lot on mindset change for women. Yeah, mindset. I think it's still lacking. But also let us create awareness. Me changing your mindset, and then you ask me what next. I give you the business development skill. I'm like, okay, I've made my shirt, so where am I selling them? So we should map out the markets for these products. As you improve, as you support them to add value to their products, to meet the standards, you should also identify the markets. Don't stop there.
Yeah.
Where should they take their products? Have you seen the pineapples on Kalere Street? How people are selling about 10 pineapples at 10,000?
Yeah.
Does it match with the cost, with the input, with the cost of inputs
the
and
labor
the sales,
and,
and everything?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we should be able to link the producers to the markets in an organized way. So I think government should look at all these angles.
I'm curious to hear more. Maybe another aspect, another nugget from the research that you conducted into Emyoga.
Yes.
You highlighted on that one from Lyra. I'm curious.
To hear more.
Yes.
Now when you go to Gulu, now when we went to Gulu, for example, that's still northern Uganda. Now those people in Gulu, they're not interested in government programs. Talk about it, tell them Myoga, they start laughing. They make jokes about it. So they don't have that time. Already they have a negative.
Is it just funding from government, or if it's private sector, they welcome that?
Oh, if it's private sector, they're a bit interested. The moment it is from government, they're like, that's something. These government programs are extremely politicized. They'll tell you, for me, I am not NRM, I can't access that money. Because the moment I go there, they're going to ask me, which party are you? And this is one thing that was being addressed. Emyoga was politicized. It came in the time of campaigns, and people thought these were grants, free money. Now when we went to Mubende, we went to a workshop in Mubende, convened men. We were there for about 4 days. We never saw women. I think the women we met were the district commercial officers.
And you had made a call for the women to be there.
Yes, a random convening for us to build capacities and to train them about the availability of this funding. And then we asked the men, where are the women? Like, why should they be here? Why should they be here? These are programs for men. The women
it's a business program.
They're in gardens, they're in farms planting and taking care of children. Why should they be there? So already that is an intimidated society.
Which now just highlights the inequality, because if you're trying to empower someone, you mentioned that we lack the knowledge as women, but you're now bringing the knowledge, but the people to gain from it are not there.
And then when we went to the farms now to find the women, they were actually there. They wake up in the morning, go into the farms. When you go into the homes, you'll find them taking care of the children. You ask them, do you know about these programs? They can't even speak. They're very timid. They can't talk. Now, when we went to Mbale, still the same. There were just women that look like you, but not the actual actors in production. So when we went to the villages, we went to Bufoto village because we needed to, it's an outreach for women and to help them understand and build their capacity. They can't talk.
Oh dear.
They have a woman representative that talks for them. And then they are very cautious of the men in the house. Even as they submit, they have to make sure that it is in line with what the man is trying to submit. But also the men's attitude, they're already biased that you are going to tell their women something that is going to
turn them against
the home.
And does that, the different regions that you've sampled, does that in the research also now show the results of maybe how productive these different women are? Does it reflect?
It shows, first of all, we identified that different regions have different needs. And government needs to work a lot on mindset change, but also not leaving behind the perpetrators, the men, as they work on programs to ensure that they address the women. Men should be in presence to make them love and adopt, because at the end of the day, when you leave, it is a family setting now, and the man will be the power structure. He's in the power position and the decision maker. So,
I wanted to bring in Amanya. I know she mentioned earlier, during the conversation, you've spoken about points where you feel like you need to be helped as a woman in business and as a woman who is not just doing her own business but empowering other women to do business. If you're to tell us a little more on how, if you want your work to have a wider reach, what exactly do you need government to do, and maybe policy influencers like SEATINI to highlight for you?
Thank you for that question. One, funding is key. I'll say it in bold. Both private and government, we need, because currently we are reaching about, before COVID, we were actually reaching about 100. COVID, we almost died a good death. We resurrected slowly. But currently we're doing 50.
You died a good death and resurrected.
Yeah. You know, COVID, the rents, our business where it was, we had to close out. Yeah, because the rent accumulated. We're going to open. We weren't allowed to go to the villages to reach out to these people. You know, most of the workers on phone or just around. It was basically outreach. So it's last year in November that we actually now again came back. So currently we're reaching about 50 women. And our viewers, thank you for supporting Nutripal Bakery, because it's the proceeds from Nutripal Bakery that we use to actually reach out to these women. To
do the empowerment.
Even youth, by the way, yes. Our niche is youth and women. Yes, so...
Funding is the key thing.
Very key, very key. So if currently about 50, if we get funding, our target is to reach about 10,000 women, even a month. Yeah, because we have been in this for long, we know what it takes, and we are more passionate to reach out to the women. Yeah, and then two, I think the market, because now as we reach out to these different people, and we eventually start out on the business. The business is in place. For example, there's a Captura. At the time we went to Captura, we saw a group of 2 people. I don't think they were related. They decided to start up, so they took on this business of weaving, and so after they're like, now you taught us this, we need to now, you know, and they're right.
We need to sell it. Yes,
and they're doing very beautiful, work. So eventually we reached out to NGOs, a certain NGO, I won't say their name, and they helped us, so they would buy and export them. Okay. Yeah, so I wish there's a way it's open.
The market
can
is be open.
Maybe whoever can reach out to what, we find that whatever these products, whatever they are, it could be a dress, it helps, especially on because there are many people in business now.
Yeah.
So meaning that if there are groups, the products are many.
And there are more, and they reach more people. And we are going to end on that very note, funding and putting structures. I think the main thing that I had from our special guest today is, if you're a woman out there and you're starting a business, or a woman who is trying to start a business, it's important to standardize, legalize your business, embrace structures, and find out where the funding is. Be proactive, because the opportunities are there, but you also need to embrace them. And there are also various recommendations for government and for research out there. I do not know if my producer will allow that, because time has run out, but we thank you so much for watching CTV. This is Month of the Woman, where we're bringing you special programming on issues that affect women and girls in the lead up to International Women's Day. Thank you for watching. Don't blink.